him down when that tribe picked him up. So anyway, here we go. Eventually there's this big battle and the princess gets captured. Well, she doesn't get captured. She's running from the guy she doesn't want to marry. So she falls off the ship and flies down to these people and surrenders herself to this village people with John Carter. So then you have, of course, have some sexual innuendos there and there. And people, mind you, this is a Disney movie, and I was like surprised for a Disney movie how usually Disney, when they did more adult stuff, they'd put it under Buena Vista. They didn't put it under Disney, but now I guess Disney is such a strong power that they're pretty universal. I mean, I admit when Disney bought the rights to Marvel and X-Men, I was like, oh great, we're gonna Mickey Mouse Wolverine. Then like I could see Wolverine with the claws going, he's whatever. They're trying, but it's trying to imply violence without showing violence. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And this movie shows it a couple of times. Like one time they show a shadow of one of the guys getting pulled in half, no blood. And the other time, which was actually, I think, one of the most gruesome Disney scenes, is one of these green aliens later in the movie gets his head cut off, and the head just is right there, and the body goes boom, flat. So there's two different issues there that you need to focus on with Disney. But I got a little sidetracked. But anyway, what happens here is he goes to the planet. There's this big war over this princess marrying this dude that she doesn't want to marry. We've heard this story before. Here's the outsider guy. Outsider guy comes in. He doesn't want to evolve, but he has to get involved. Otherwise, the green village people say they're going to kill this princess if he doesn't fight for them. So he ends up fighting for them. They fall in love. Blah blah blah. We've heard this before. And then through the fight, through everything, then the Illuminati type people tell the guy what's going on, and he's a fool and everything. But then he somehow, of all things, which is the only cool part, is this dog that looks like a big the best way I could try is some egg McMuffin sandwich. This big dog egg McMuffin sandwich comes out of nowhere, and just attacks and frees John Carter. Then John Carter goes back, establishes his leadership of the village group, the green aliens with the tusks. But in this mess, somehow they found some philosophical stuff about how blah blah blah. It was like completely lost on that. So they get these guys. They go back to the cities. They're called Helium, ironically, and Bullum, I think it is. It was like not even really worth paying attention on that. But they grow the armies back. The armies come in. They basically kick the crap out of everyone. But the Illuminati guys escape. Well, that's cool and all. So then everyone's happy. He marries the princess and everything. But then right when he threw away the amulet because he was never going to go back to Earth, the Illuminati guys show up and zapped him back to Earth. So he spent years on Earth trying to get back. Now there's a backstory I didn't touch on. He faked his own death to get his nephew to kind of play along with this to get one of these guys. So because he was forced back to Earth and he doesn't have his princess and his love anymore, he fakes his own death, get these guys, Illuminati type guys, out in the open to lure them out. And then when he does, with his nephew's being naive as he is, he kills him and takes the amulet and goes back to Mars and happily ever after. I think the biggest problems in this movie were just largely too much damn money was spent on it. For all the photography they did in the Grand Canyon and other places, it wasn't worth it. They did not need to do as much CGI. The problem is they now think CGI rules everything. And I remember the biggest complaint about Star Wars, the new ones, is that specifically Star Wars doesn't... When they built sets, it was just awesome. because the sets were real. You could kind of see the smoke, you could see everything flying around. But when they didn't do that and they went everything to CG, it just there was a lackluster appearance. It looked almost fake. Episode 1 was really bad, but Episode 3 they really cleaned it up and really did a nice job. That fight at the end they had to do with CG, of course. But I'm talking if you compare like Empire Strikes Back, them in the snow hangar, the steam, the ships, all that stuff. It's amazing. It's just like you think you were really there. And they were, I think, up in Norway or someone doing this thing. And there's funny backstories to that. But simply this film was just a wrap-up of a whole bunch of other films which were not really worth it. I mean, I think it was almost as bad as Green Lantern. It was a bad investment. The characters, the princess and the guy made no chemistry. It was almost bad as Sands of Time, Prince of Persia. When here was a very simple concept with Prince of Persia, that all they had to do was have an Aladdin type guy say this other thing. But of course the Aladdin type guy has to look like freaking Conan Barbarian or something. Or he has to look like just whatever, you insert name. He has to have a certain look, Twilight, whatever, on that. And then you have this other villain which has mustache out to here or whatever. It's stereotypical. Like, interesting, I've been reading a lot about RoboCop, and they're redoing that, and how they made this big statement saying the guy I think who plays House is going to be the main bad guy. But in the article they talk about he was the CEO. But anybody who remembers the original Robot, the guy who played Eric Lassard in Police Academy was the CEO, or the head guy and chairman, and the guy who was the main bad guy was Randy Cox, also known as Bogomil in Beverly Hills Cop series. He was the COO, and he was the one that ran things for that. And at the end, the guy who played, it was George Gaines, I think it was, fired him on that so RoboCop could do his job because of the whole Directive 4 mess. But that's what this whole film was like. It was a mess. There was very little to no chemistry. They relied too much on two people, two interests. And the only funny line I ever got out of it was, "You're ugly, but you're beautiful." And the other line was the dog that looked like a sausage McMuffin was funny as hell. Because the dog was just, you could tell he was a dog. He was just playing, but he had this big old grin. And it would be a cool dog to have, I think. Anyway, that's my review. Tell me what you think. Tell me now, whatever. I'll see y'all later. And I know I probably have to break this up in 2 parts. Thanks.